Hi, friends. Welcome to another excellent episode of That Sounds Fun podcast. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be with you today. Listen, it's excellent because this EnneaSummer 2024 series has had some of the best guests and experts we have ever had. I am so thrilled we get to continue. We wrap it up today with the final triad, the Head Triad. Remember, if you're just jumping in and you're like, what are the Enneagram Triads? Just go back to our first conversation, episode 899 with Ashton Whitmoyer-Ober, where we really walk through each one and explain what they mean. That is such a helpful starting place. So far, we've talked about the Gut Triad, which are 8s, 9s, and 1s. We've talked about the Heart Triad, which are 2s, 3s, and 4s. And we have loved hearing your thoughts. If you had to answer the question, what does my Enneagram type need? What would you say on that billboard? You can find a blank one on my Instagram, Annie F. Downs, or on the That Sounds Fun podcast account, and then post it. Share yours using the EnneaSummer 2024 hashtag. Make sure you tag me and That Sounds Fun podcast as well, so we can all see your answer. And don't forget, share these episodes with your friends and family. These are such great conversation starters with your people. So text this episode to a friend or a family member. Y'all discuss it together. If you've been trying to understand the 5, 6, or 7 in your life, here you go. Today is the episode. Before we dive into this conversation, I want to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors. The show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's really easy to start comparing ourselves to one another when we're talking about the Enneagram. You start to wish you were a different number instead of embracing the way you were wired on purpose. But we have to remember the Enneagram, it's just a tool. It's not our identity. And like therapy, it's one way to better understand ourselves and figure out how to navigate our motivations and behaviors. Therapy and counseling have been so helpful for me, and having the language of the Enneagram to use has been so helpful too. If you're curious about therapy and haven't given it a try, but after hearing these episodes, you're like, I've got some stuff to work out, check out BetterHelp. It's all online, so you can connect with a licensed therapist from the comfort of your own home on your own schedule. Plus, they make it easy to find the right fit. You just fill out a brief questionnaire. Y'all know we love a quiz. And you'll get matched with a therapist that is right for you. Stop comparing and start focusing. Visit betterhelp.com/thatsoundsfun today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. Again, that's betterhelp, HELP.com/thatsoundsfun. Today on the show, we get to talk about the Head Triad, which is made up of Enneagrams 5, 6s, and 7s. Our Enneagram expert today is my friend Ross Slough, who identifies as an Enneagram 5. Our Enneagram 6 will be represented by my friend Hannah, and then I'll be speaking about my experience as an Enneagram 7. Every show has had a 7 in it by default, but this one we're actually talking about it. So if you're listening and you identify as a 5, 6, or 7, and you've been waiting your turn, well done. Today is your day. But as we always say, don't tune out if we're not talking about your number today. What we can learn about other people and other types will impact our relationships for the better. That's why I've loved these other 2 triad episodes that we have done, because I've learned so much about the people I am doing up close, intimate relationship with. It has been so helpful. So without further ado, here is our final EnneaSummer 2024 conversation, the Head Triad, 5, 6s, and 7s, with me and my friends, Ross and Hannah.
That sounds fun.
All right, friends, welcome to That Sounds Fun. Hannah and Ross, I'm so glad y'all are here.
Yay, thank you.
So glad to be here.
Okay, we're in last show of EnneaSummer, the Head Triad. It's us.
Come on.
It
That's
me.
right.
Let's
Here
go.
we go.
Here we go.
So I'll get the 2 of y'all to introduce yourselves. I'll start with you, Hannah. And tell us who you are. Tell us what number you identify with.
Okay.
And if you want to, you can tell us kind of what you do so people can put into their minds your career as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm Hannah. I am an Enneagram 6. I'm originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I've lived here in Nashville for, I guess, about 6 years now. And I get to work for Belmont University, and I do project management for the marketing team over there. And I love it.
What is the audience going to love the most about you?
Oh,
What did they need to?
gosh.
Well, what did they need to know that we know? Who are you married to?
Oh, yes. I am married to Craig Thompson.
Yes.
To the prince. Is that
You are married to the prince. You are Craig's wife.
Yes. That is the honor of my lifetime, get to be married to Craig, who works on this team, which is just amazing. And Annie is actually one of the big reasons we met. And
Very
she
proud of it.
officiated our wedding. And Annie and Kelly Cricker, we owe so much to.
Well,
so.
it's your first time being in the studio
Yes.
with us. And
It's
people
so
have
fun.
followed Craig being the single guy that we kept saying, who wants to marry this guy on our team that is so great?
I do.
And you did. Well done.
Yeah.
So glad.
Awesome.
Okay, Ross, do the same. Introduce yourself to us.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ross Slough, and I am in Denton, Texas. I'm not with you guys today in Nashville, unfortunately. But I am a counselor, and I work for a mental health nonprofit, and I was a pastor for a long time. And I lead with type 5, so I identify most with type 5 on the Enneagram. And I've learned a lot with Annie about the Enneagram. I feel like we were kind of learning about it at the same time when we first started learning about it. So it's been a fun journey to grow an understanding of myself and people around me.
Ross and I went to Israel together with a group almost 10 years ago.
Oh, cool.
That's insane.
And
it's insane.
Of that whole group, 2 of the people that lived in Texas ended up staying I kept them very close to my life. And Ross and his family are one of them. So
that's amazing.
An interesting thing about this episode that's different than any other EnneaSummer is our heart triad, all 3 of them were married with kids. Our gut triad were 3 single women.
Okay.
And so today we have, Hannah, you're newly married.
Yes.
Ross, you've been married a while and you have 2 kids.
Yes.
And I'm single. So we're bringing each of the, it's so different.
I love it.
I love it. Okay, Ross, you are also where we both started learning about Enneagram at the same time. You accelerated far beyond my knowledge and got proper training. So help us as an Enneagram coach and as a counselor, help us to understand the head triad for people who aren't a 5, a 6, or a 7. What does it mean that we lead with our thinking?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also important to mention that, these triads are also called the centers of intelligence. And when we think of intelligence, we think of head knowledge. But in reality, we have intelligence in all of these centers, the head, the heart, the gut, and the mind. And so it really is about how we perceive information and how we communicate and the ways that we lead out with that information as well. So, we're not, even though we are last and we think we're the best being the head triad here, the intelligence, we can be, obviously there's emotional intelligence and there's body intelligence as well. And so we center in this area. And, with this triad, the kind of core, kind of feeling or emotion that is associated with this triad is fear. So it can also be called the fear triad. And that's just the primary feeling that we can feel is fear. And it can come back to a lot of our motivations. So with the Enneagram, which I'm sure, through all the EnneaSummers, we've really looked at all of these things. But just as a reminder that, behavior is a great way to look at our Enneagram type, but that should lead to motivation. Right. What our motivations are. And so at the core of our motivations can often be a fear-based kind of distinction or decision. And oftentimes that desire to maybe make that fear go away or make that fear less is a desire for security. So a lot of our behavior and the way that we operate and the similarities across our 3 numbers comes from a place of desiring security. And that's how those can operate in different ways for each number, is by desiring that security.
Wow. Okay. So I am the 7 sitting at the table. I forgot to mention that before when you were the 5 and the 6. I am the 7. And I said to you before we started, Ross, that it feels like, and this may just be because I'm in this triad, it feels like the 3 of us could not be more different. But maybe that's true of all the triads. So will you kind of go through real quick and like, a 5 wants what kind of security? A 6 wants what kind of security? A 7 wants what kind of security?
Yeah. I think it's more about maybe how we process fear and how and then how our security maybe matches that fear. So for a 5, it's all kind of internal. It's internal security. So it's wanting to make sure that we're resourced and prepared and that we have all the answers before we're heading out into something. And for a 7, it's more external. Yeah. So that is more about not wanting to feel the fear or the insecurity. So jamming our lives packed full of things and not finishing things and going on to the next thing before, you finish this thing so that you're not experiencing that thing. And then, in every triad, the middle number is the most disconnected from the other triads, right?
I learned that. Yes, I didn't know that until this series. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the 6 is almost like the most disconnected from their head or their thinking. And the reason that is, when you look at some of the other things like stances and whatnot, that the 6 is the most thinking that's kind of like unproductive or doesn't lead to like positive, behavior or action. So that is more of kind of like the rumination and the desire with a 6 for external affirmation of the fear that they're experiencing. So wanting really to have someone, that's where that loyalty and that trust really comes in for a 6 of really needing someone outside of their own thinking to lean on and to trust.
Yeah. Ross, I'm in a little bit of a stressful season. And I said to a friend last night, I have not been in my home without music or podcast or audiobook going in a week. I mean, if I am alone, it is loud because it's that like get out of this feeling no matter, I've blown through audiobooks in the last 2 weeks. I'm like caught up on everything because I'm doing that. I'm doing, the fear is, I am doing the fill up your brain, but don't do anything. Like, okay, I finished a book or I got 2/3 through a book and then I moved on, right? Hannah, tell me, as a 6, tell me, how did you decide you were a 6? How did you determine that was right for you? And is what Ross is saying ringing true, that your brain is just going?
Yes, absolutely. So Enneagram became really big in my college friend group, my senior year of college, and everyone was reading The Road Back to You.
Yeah.
And so that played a role in deciding what my number was. I definitely misidentified at first as a 2, which I wonder if a lot of Christian women do that.
Yes.
So that was a part of my journey. And eventually, as I started reading and researching more, realized, oh my gosh, my people are everything to me. I'm so protective, so loyal, would do anything for them. And am definitely someone who thinks in worst case scenario a lot, which is this unproductive thinking that I feel like happens a ton for me, where I'm like playing out all of these scenarios. They never come true, but I feel like it's wasted time, where I'm like, I've spent an hour thinking through what's, XYZ, and it's not helpful.
Yeah.
It doesn't. My mother-in-law is so wise, and she always says, God doesn't have grace for your imagination. Like, you don't have the resources and the grace you would need to get through this made-up situation in your mind because it's not happening.
Wow.
And so that helps me a ton in kind of this unproductive thinking of like, I don't need to worry about that right now because it's not happening.
Yeah.
But I definitely have those unproductive thoughts and fears a lot.
Ross, whenever the weather is changing here in Nashville, very often we will say, hey, Craig, has Hannah texted you yet?
I know. I am
my gosh.
Severe weather. What time are you coming home? Watch out. We have a lot of severe weather in Nashville, and I'm always checking what's going on.
Yes, I call my wife. So my wife's a 6 as well, and I call her like an amateur meteorologist. She's like the guy in our town is called. His name's Pete Delkus, and she's like always wondering what Pete Delkus is saying about the weather that's coming out. So that is so funny that's
the
true.
Nash severe weather guys are my favorite. I'm always tracking them.
That's awesome.
Ross, how did you most identify with the 5?
Okay, so I'm glad that you asked that question because and related to the previous kind of thing that you were saying about all the types, all of the head types feeling really different, is because whenever I first started learning about the Enneagram, I really identified with 7.
Yeah, because you're fun.
The reason is because I think one way that 5s and 7s are really similar is that we like new experiences and we like new things and we like adventure and exploring. And I really enjoy those things. And the part of me that enjoys those things might be motivated differently than the way that a 7 does, or that you do, Annie. I think that the reason that is because, a 7 is maybe trying to mask what could be going on, and not wanting to feel some of the things. And for me, I need to feel prepared in order to enter into a new thing. So I have this like desire for research and finding out all these things. And part of that, I think maybe the low side of that is like, so that I don't feel unprepared, incompetent, that I don't know what I'm doing when I get in that situation. So I first really felt identified with a 7. But then, I have this clear memory of me and Michelle sitting on our couch and the house that you've been to, Annie, and we were walking through this book and this Enneagram book, and it was less about me having awareness or having this revelation about myself, and more Michelle being like, oh my gosh, this is totally who you are. And also in the other direction too. I was like, this is totally who you are as a 6. And so us learning about each other has really been the most beneficial thing that the Enneagram has done for me, is giving language to like my wife's experience and her and me as well, and not being frustrated with the way that we think and operate, but rather appreciating it and having grace for that in each other.
Yeah. It is so interesting because we are the only episode where people have married in their triad, in their area of intelligence. That's and both of you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is wild. I feel weird doing this but I have to answer as well because I'm the 7. So I'm learning real time that I probably wish I'd have put another 7 in here so I could be like, now you answer instead of me.
I love it.
I also need to answer because there are 7s listening who need to hear. Yes. But you know, I'll tell you, and I think both of you know this, I act like and look like an 8 more than I look like a typical 7. Like a typical 7, people are like, oh, they're forgetful and they're flighty and they are, you know, they are running around doing all sorts of fun stuff. And I am more of a bulldozer in behavior. And so, but I have known since I started researching Enneagram, other people always say I'm a 7. I mean, the show's called That Sounds Fun. I understand I prioritize fun. But my motivation of, man, I do not like feeling pain. What can I do to get out of this pain? I mean, I even had a call with my counselor a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I need healthier tools to help me get through this. And she said, you don't actually need healthier tools. You just want healthier ways to escape. And she was like, she said, the healthiest level is actually sitting in your pain.
Wow.
And she was like, I can tell you what to do. I can tell you these things you should do that you're not doing. But the reality is you just want a healthier version of an unhealthy behavior so that you don't harm yourself. Not harm myself like that, but so that I don't do something that causes regret.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And she was like, nah, the healthiest Annie could sit in this pain. I was like, bye. No, I can't. No, thank you.
Wow.
Right. So I've never considered I was anything else. I kind of felt like a 7 from the start when I read about like what we love. But the more I grow into my profession and the more I lead in so many places, my behavior looks more 8-ish, but my motivation has never changed.
Okay.
I don't feel like an 8. I just act like an 8 sometimes. And so I think that what you said earlier, Ross, about us needing to know the motivation behind our behaviors, if I was to take the test fresh today and I didn't think about why and I just did what I do, I would test as an 8. And then I would move forward thinking, how do I be the healthiest version of myself for me and for the relationships I'm in? And I would look at all 8 things and it would be off.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's also, I think, the idealized version of ourselves, who we want to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the environment you're in, Annie, that you are a business leader and you're, you know, a team, you lead a team, and that requires something of you, and requires you to be the type of person who maybe exhibits some of those 8 characteristics. I know for me, whenever I was a pastor, especially like a college pastor, you know, I had to put on 3 energy all the time, you know, to be really loud and out there and fun and all of those things, and charge forward and all of those kind of characteristics. So we kind of sometimes embody the things and what we need for those seasons as well.
Yeah. Hannah, when you met Craig and when y'all were falling in love, thinking about marriage, dating, all the things, how does an Enneagram 6 do intimate relationship with people up close, whether it's your coworkers you see every day or your Craig or even your brother, your family?
Yeah.
How does fear not win out in the head of a 6? Like, how do you not let all the scary options that a 6 can think of keep you from doing healthy relationship?
It's so hard. It's hard. It's an active battle of if I am thinking down the road of all of, these problems that I could lose someone I love or something bad could happen, I don't get to enjoy the moment and the relationship that I'm in. And so I feel like that is a daily practice that I'm trying to do constantly of like, let's just be where my feet are, enjoy the moment. I don't, no one is sick. No one is in a car accident. Like, it's fine. And I feel like, I said this earlier, but my friendships and my people mean so much to me. I would do anything for them. It takes me a second to trust people for sure. And so I feel like...
Because you know where you're going to take them in your life.
Yes. Yeah. Because I'm like, I know I'm going to invite you in so deeply and intimately. And I need to know that I can trust you first. And I am definitely someone who, and this is not necessarily the healthiest practice, but I do tend to be like, you need to give me a reason to trust you before I trust you versus inherently trusting someone right off the bat, which I feel like that's Craig's go-to is like, I'm just like, I'll be whatever. Like, I'll trust you until you give me a reason not to.
Yeah.
And so Craig
and I both have such big 7 energy about that stuff. We're like, yeah, you're my best friend. Ouch, you hurt me. I didn't expect
Golden
that.
retriever to the max. I feel like it's so fun. But I definitely, am super protective and loyal of my people, and so it takes a second for me to get there.
Yeah.
But then I'm very involved. I always want to know. I feel like a big part of my head triad is like I'm always thinking to my people. I'm like, okay, who has a doctor's appointment? Who's giving a big presentation at work? Like, who do I need to text? Whose birthday is it? Is it an anniversary? Oh, this person said their favorite candy was this. I'll make sure to make that note that I'm going to get it for them for their... Like, I feel like that's where my head goes a lot. In my friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't. Ross, so for a 5, the research a 5 has to do to make sure they're making the right decision. How does a 5 do intimate relationship? How do you ever convince yourself, I am sure this house is the right house? Michelle is irresistible. So your wife would be an easy yes for any of us. But how do you decide this job is right? This house is right. This friendship is right. How does a 5 get over the hump of, I have to know everything before I can make this decision?
Yeah. I think, I am very comfortable in my head and I'm very comfortable isolating myself. And so that's the work on my end, is knowing when there's moments that I have to push out of those places, whether that's like being vulnerable and opening up with people. I think it's interesting. I think about myself and what I do as a counselor, and it's a very intimate thing where you're hearing people's stories and what's going on in their lives and what their suffering is and and I'm really close to all of those things. And yet, like the being able to observe those things is what I really kind of value and see my skill in, is being able to kind of sit back and not get into those places. But that doesn't serve me in intimate relationships. That's not good for me to like sit back and watch my relationships go by. I have to be in them and be present and feeling the feelings. And so that's the work that I have to do, is making sure that I'm entering in those things and taking the risk, taking that risk of, I heard someone say once that 5s have, like a tower in their head, and sometimes they let down the drawbridge and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And so I have to actively, like, it's not natural for me to let down the drawbridge. So I have to do that. And there can even be like false authenticity or vulnerability that I have to watch for in myself too, where I know how to say the right things to connect with people on an emotional level. But that may not be me really truly sharing about what's going on with me or how I feel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is really interesting to me. 5s feel very withdrawn to me, but y'all y'all are the withdrawn stance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is a 6? What stance is a 6?
They are, so you have aggressive. They're, oh man, what is it called? It's where you relate to others. You move with others, essentially.
Oh, got it. Okay. That's what she's, that sounds like what Hannah was just saying.
Yes.
Because as a 7, as a 7, I am most certainly the aggressive stance.
It's dependent. The dependent stance.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew it would come to you.
Yes, for sure.
It came to your mind.
Yeah.
Hey friends, we're going to take just a minute to talk about what is going on in your house. I got to tell you about one of our incredible new sponsors, Our Place, y'all. Johnny, you know Johnny, who produces all of our podcasts. He was telling me recently about how much he and his wife love their Our Place cookware. I was immediately sold. What he actually said was that their pans are his favorite to cook eggs with. I am here for that. Protein, we need it. Our Place is a mission-driven and female-founded brand that makes beautiful kitchen products that are healthy and sustainable. Their products are made without PFAS and Teflon. In comparison, most of today's nonstick pans contain PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, which are under increasing global scrutiny for their impact on the environment and our health. Yikes. Our Place has super durable, toxin-free ceramic coatings, ensuring a healthy, safe cooking experience. Plus, they're just very cute. There's so many fun colors. They're super versatile. And Our Place is also changing the game by offering non-toxic appliances too. Y'all, go look up their Wonder Oven right now. It is a 6-in-1 air fryer toaster oven, but it is adorable. Oh my gosh, it is so cute. It's a square. I mean, it's like a cube. It's adorable. Upgrade to Our Place today and say goodbye to forever chemicals in your kitchen. Go to FromOurPlace.com. Enter our code TSF. That's the code for our friends at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide. That's FromOurPlace.com. And again, the code is TSF. Our Place offers a 100-day trial with free shipping and returns. So we're talking about your kitchen. Let's keep talking about your house because our other partner today that you know I love is Wayfair. If you're looking to update your backyard or your porch this summer while you're hanging outside, y'all, Wayfair. You can seriously find everything you need to summer your way at Wayfair, no matter what your style or budget is. You can shop for all your summer essentials, whether you're looking for garden gnomes or gazebos. I spent a lot of my summer Sabbath in New York, and y'all know how much I love the stuff I got from Wayfair for my apartment there. My couch, rugs, mirror. I truly love it all. And we've linked to it on my Like to Know, so you can go find it and see exactly what is in my apartment from Wayfair. Wayfair is the go-to destination for everything home. They have a huge selection of summer home goods ranging from patio furniture to umbrellas to grills and decor. Everything you need for your outdoor area, living room, bedroom, and more. Wayfair makes it so easy with fast and free shipping. Even on the big stuff, they'll even help you set it up. I told y'all have heard me tell you. The one they helped me set up, my chair in my house, was a game changer. Find everything you need to summer your way at Wayfair. Visit wayfair.com or get the Wayfair mobile app. Listen, if you want to scroll something, scroll that Wayfair mobile app. I love it. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Okay, now back to our conversation with Ross and Hannah. So a question I have, and then I'll answer on behalf of a 7, but a question I have is, do both of you think about fear? Because I do in my head often say, hey, you don't have to be afraid of that. Like I talk about fear in my thinking a lot. Do y'all talk about fear in your thinking?
No, I mean, I'm thinking about like preparing for the thing so that I don't feel the fear. So I'm doing all my work in my mind so that I don't experience that thing.
Got it.
And so I think if I like got really honest with myself, and when I do get honest with myself and understand what I'm feeling, I can know that I'm experiencing some of that fear. But my like natural inclination is, I'm just going to gather all of these resources, thinking and research and all of this stuff so that I don't feel that.
Interesting. I definitely think about fear a lot and am constantly thinking of what I'm scared of.
Yeah.
And most of it is losing relationship or losing someone that I love. And so I do feel like I can get into a pretty bad spiral of like, what would I do if Craig died? And then I'm like living for 30 minutes in a life where Craig is not alive. And that is so unhelpful.
Right.
But I'm like, I need to know that I would be okay. What would I do?
Right.
And like I'm constantly in that worst case scenario prep of like, okay, what do I do if this happens? And that's going back to like the God-giving grace. Like I cannot possibly fathom and imagine the way that God would step into my life if that situation happened.
Yeah.
So why am I wasting all of this thought energy on it?
Right.
And so, but yeah, I am definitely thinking about fear a lot.
Yeah. My brain often, so what I know, the two things that stand out to me about sevens is we think our way through everything and we do not want to be trapped. And so if I ever, and so one of the hurdles for us and for me in intimate relationship is you are not trapped. You are choosing. This is, no one is locking you in a prison. The door, there is no door. This is no prison. There is no lock. Like you are not stuck in anything. And the feeling of being stuck is the work I often have to do of you are not stuck in this feeling. You are not stuck in this season. You are not stuck in this relationship. You are not stuck. I mean, I write about this in Let's All Be Brave, maybe. No, I think Looking for Lovely. But I write about that, like the time I felt the most stuck, I literally got on a plane and flew away and didn't tell anybody.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, girl.
Oh, wow.
That's what got me into counseling. That's what got me into counseling. It was like, what have I just done?
Oh, wow.
But I felt so stuck in a dating relationship that was not even that serious.
Okay.
That instead of saying no to him, I flew away and told him I couldn't go out because I was not in town anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a level, right?
Okay.
And so learning that about me of like, oh man, there are other tools when you feel stuck besides an airplane is really helpful. Though I live part-time in New York. I've lived in Edinburgh. I go a lot to Dallas. I mean, like there are seasons where I do use an airplane to help me feel free.
Yeah.
And so, but in relationship, I have to be like, the thing that I have to do in my head, and when there's like conflict in an up close relationship, or where there is courage required in up close. Okay, we need to have a DTR. We need to have a serious. We need to something isn't right. The thing I have to say in my head is, you don't have to be afraid of this.
Yeah.
You are a grown up. You know how to do hard conversation.
Yeah.
Think of all the times you've done hard conversation and it's been fine.
Trust in yourself.
The end, and so I have to do a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of self-talk. Does every triad do the amount of self-talk we do, or is that part of us always thinking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would love to hear from the other triads.
I know.
Way. You know, I mean, since we are in our heads, I would say that that's how we process is thinking. You know? So self-talk is ways that we're talking to ourselves, thinking to ourselves. So I would say that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
A thing that my team here has gotten really generous about doing is if they say to me, how do you feel about so-and-so? I'm like, I don't care. I don't have any idea how I feel. Like, I don't bring any feelings with me anywhere. But if they'll say, what do you think about this thing? And I go, okay, here's what I think.
Yeah.
I think, like even like Nashville soccer isn't having their best season ever. And so I'm like, if you ask me how I feel about Nashville soccer, I don't feel anything. But if you ask me what I think, I'm like, I'm concerned. We have got, this is a young franchise. We've got stuff to do,
Yeah.
Do y'all know how, I don't know how this question is going to come out. Do y'all know how to feel better than I know how to feel? Because also sevens, we never touch 2, 3, 4 in health, in wings, in anything. We never go to 2, 3, 4. So Suzanne Stabile says we're the only number that doesn't touch every triad. And so Suzanne Stabile says for a 7 to find their feelings, they have to pack a suitcase. And so it just is never. But do y'all click into feelings a little bit better? I mean, you wing to a 4. That has to be helpful. In health and in unhealth, you end up over there in feelings. So
yes.
Do y'all have feelings?
Yes, I am. Okay. I am a big empath to the point where it takes me a second to switch into thinking mode. But if I see someone going through a hard time, it is hard for me not to feel like I am also going through a hard time.
Interesting.
Like
I totally see how you thought you might have been a 2.
Yes.
When
and
I
go to 3 in unhealth, so that might be part of it. But I definitely have strong, big feelings, but I then always am trying to rationalize them in my brain. So I'm like, okay, I'm having this big feeling. Someone's having a hard time. How am I going to solve? Like, how can I help? How can I solve it? And then I'm like, what would I do if I was in that situation? And it turns into thinking, but sometimes my initial reaction occasionally will be to feel.
Ross, talk to me about 5s and their feelings.
Yeah. The kind of common idea about 5s and feelings is that they don't feel them in real time. That we don't feel our feelings in real time. So kind of the picture is like you could be in the shower 5 days after a conflict and start crying and realize that this is from, before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if I agree with that for myself. I have a hard time feeling, for sure. I was talking to Michelle last night. We were sitting on the couch, and I was like, when was the last time you cried? Because someone was crying on TV or something. And she was like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And she's like, when's the last time you cried? Never. And maybe because, I think that's, I maybe am kind of perceived as not feeling that much. And I could probably agree with that it's hard for me to process through feelings and know what I'm feeling. Maybe knowing, I can know what I feel, but feeling what I feel is maybe different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so, that's a place of work for me. For sure.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, it is a choice to identify. I don't even have to say it out loud to anyone else. It is a choice of growth in me to go, I feel sad.
Yeah.
I feel angry. I mean, it took me the longest time to know what to call emotions.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know what I feel. I just don't. I mean, Ross, I'm 43. I've done a lot of counseling, and most days I do not know what I feel.
Yeah.
It just I'm just like, oh yeah, I know I'm not okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I feel. Or I know everything's great, but I don't know what I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Those feelings wheels are really helpful for me. The feelings charts and feelings wheels,
Same.
Because it forces me to like be specific about the thing, especially when there's
do you and Michelle sit down with a feelings chart?
No, I don't think.
Is that my future marriage life?
No, but as like in our counseling practice, that's something that we do regularly is check in and see how we're feeling. And that's been really helpful for me to be like, okay, this is actually fear. This is actually shame. This is actually anger. And putting words to that helps me grow my emotional kind of intelligence and awareness. But I do think I need to do the work to experience those feelings more than knowing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
I do think, Annie, one thing that's interesting, though, is that with the 7, I feel like that often 7s present as feeling a lot.
Yes. People think we feel a lot.
Yes, because it's like you're, out there, you're very charismatic, like you're people can see your reactions, like people, you kind of wear your reactions on your face, on your sleeve, whatever it looks like. So that can seem like emotional, but it's maybe more kind of like reactive than it is kind of emotional.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Ross, because I would imagine so many people listening are thinking, well, my husband is a 7, my wife is a 7, and they're always expressing themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm like, what you are seeing is like our skin out. You are not seeing our skin in. You are seeing like how our chocolate-coated candy shell responds.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We don't have any idea how our chocolatey center feels, but we can tell you how our candy-coated cover responds. Yeah, that's a great point, Ross. I hadn't thought about how we might be perceived as actually feeling everything when we don't.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. One of the questions we've asked everyone that I would love for y'all to answer is, you are representing yourself today. We can only be experts on ourselves. And also, you're the only 6. You're the only 5. I'm the only 7 in the room. If there was a billboard that you could put up for people doing relationship with our type, and you were like, here's the best way you could help people in close relationship with 6s and 5s and 7s, what would you put on that billboard? What would you say is like, here's a sentence that could be really helpful for you doing up close relationship with me or my type?
Ooh, this is a good question.
I would say that I really need like patient. The only word I can think of is prodding. Like I need patient
prodding.
I need someone to push me along gently in vulnerability and intimacy in my relationships. If you're going to come in hot and require me to open up, then I'm going to close off. But my natural inclination is not to open up. So I need someone, and Michelle is really, really good at this. She's really, really good at being this for me.
Yeah.
Someone who, she gives me a lot of space and a lot of time and, allows me to process and share when I feel comfortable, or maybe not comfortable, but when I have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
So that's really what I need.
Has she learned that though, Ross? I mean, y'all been together for a long time,
yeah.
And so high schoolers don't know to have these conversations, right?
True.
But yeah. Has there been time? I don't know how to ask this because I deeply love and respect Michelle, but is it something she learned? Like, was there, because I'm thinking about the couples listening who are married to fives and they're like, well, my husband totally shut down yesterday because I pushed too hard. Was Michelle naturally great at that? Or is that a thing that also, as you learn and grow together, you get better at?
Yeah, she's definitely grown. I don't necessarily remember times. I would say it's probably the other end where she's known that she needs to like press in sometimes. Where maybe before she would respond to me shutting down. And this is probably coming from her as a 6, is wanting that relationship, wanting to stay attached. So if you're talking about attachment styles a little bit, like I think 6s probably lean towards that anxious attachment, which means I'm not going to do anything to kind of rattle or, to make the ship rock at all.
Right.
And so she probably would respond to me pulling back and pull back too. And so I think maybe her learning to press in and ask me questions and can come back to whatever, kind of like inclination she has or what I've expressed to her. That's probably been where our growth area has been throughout the relationship.
Right. Okay. Whereas if you'd have married an 8 or a 7 or a 3, it would have been. You're like, Annie, you're the only 7 I can handle.
No.
But if you'd have married an aggressive stance, the learning would have been to give the patient part. Because you married a 6, it's the prodding part that has grown.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for me in close relationships with aggressive numbers because, it's easy for me to shut down, and it's easy for aggressive numbers to stay in their place, like just to be who they are, rather than like trying to come into my space, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So that's like it's not hard for me to be in those relationships. It's just easy for me to let them dominate essentially the relationship.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. That is so interesting.
Yeah. Hannah, what about you? What do you think bulletin board, my teacher and me, billboard wise?
I'm trying to think. I feel like, kind of what Ross was just saying, like that anxious attachment style. Like I do just need to, I'm like, please let me know you're going to stay here. Like stay with me might be the phrase of just like
emotionally, physically
reassuring and being married to a 7 who, isn't necessarily wearing all of the emotions on the front. I'm like, what are you feeling? What's going on? Like, and I feel like I even sometimes have to do the prodding with him. And so I feel like being able to have that reassurance and just knowing that we're still attached, those check-ins are really, really helpful. Yeah. The other thing that popped into my mind, I feel like, is who, what, where, when, and why. That's just like my motto of life. And like, tell me the answer to those questions before we go into. Greg and I were talking about it earlier this week of like, we both, and he's a 7 and in his head a lot, like we both will go into an event or a situation where we have expectations and they are so different. And that is where a lot of our conflict ends up happening, where he's going in like, this is going to be such a blast and so much fun. And I've like planned this whole thing. And I'm like, okay, but what's the weather? How long is it going to take to drive there? Do I need to bring my own snacks? Like, what's the schedule? Yes. And then it ends up kind of sucking the fun for him sometimes when he's like, oh, I have to sit and think through these logistics now to
Right.
And so, but I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy this unless I know what's going on. And so if he can, that's something that we've worked on a lot, where if he can just come up with like, hey, here's what's happening. I've already like researched and like, this is like the who, what, where, when, and why. And then it's so much easier for both of us to enjoy it moving forward. But
okay. Patient prodding is the 5, what we need.
Yeah.
The 6 says, stay with me.
Yeah.
Stay with me. The thing I keep thinking in this moment, that if I made a billboard for 7s for other people in relationships, I think I would say I don't want to run. I don't want to run. Like, don't assume that I want out of this. Don't assume that my behavior is what I want to be doing. Like, I actually I don't think any of us actually want to run. We just don't know what to do.
Okay.
And so when we feel trapped, when we feel stuck, the only thing we know to do is eject. But it's not actually what we want to do when we're trying to be healthy, you know?
Yeah.
And so for my up close people, I want to be like, I actually don't want to do that. I want to do this healthily. I don't think 7s need babysitters. I don't think any of us need babysitters, but we do need patient prodding. I think that's such a good language for us. Yeah.
I love that.
And the patient prodding for a 7 is, don't just let me do what I want to do. But I mean, as much as I always have crushes on 9s, one of the downside is they let me do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And often I need the pushback of, or we could make a plan.
Yeah.
And it's okay to check the weather. And I want to be like, no, let's just go. But I'm like, no, that is so much smarter. Of course we should check the weather. And I'm going to ask you for a snack when we get there. And I could have brought my own apple. And, and so I think I would remind people who are doing relationships with 7s that are in our core, we don't actually want to run.
Yeah.
Wow.
From the pain.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that's true. That
That's
feels
so
true
good.
today. Tell me what kind of tools y'all have needed. I mean, I think we've all talked a little bit about counseling, therapy being a part of our story.
Yep.
Ross, what are some other tools you've needed as a 5 that have helped you to be emotionally and relationally healthy?
Yeah. Well, environmentally, being pushed out of my comfort zone and to take risks without having all the resources has been really positive for me. So, working in a church environment, there's so much, kind of like uncertainty, and you're flying by the seat of your pants a lot of the times. And that's like not my norm. And so allowing myself to be in an environment where I'm pushed, I'm grateful that God allowed me to walk through seasons like that, even if it wasn't the most comfortable for me, because it forced me to kind of be comfortable with being uncomfortable in those situations, where other people, I think, more thrive, like a 7 or a 3 or something, maybe thrive in those environments. That's not, I don't. And so like pushing against that side of me was really helpful. So I think like bringing that theme into my life of asking for what I need when I need it, of speaking up and using my voice even when it feels like maybe inefficient or that it's not important in those situations. A lot of those things are ways that I think that this is going to benefit me, even if it's not the thing that I feel naturally.
Wow. Also, I will just brag on you in front of God and everybody. You are one of the most humble people I know. So I think you do tend to put yourselves, like there were a lot of factors at your job that required humility of you when you were working at a church. And so I think that was something I observed in the seasons of all that change and moving around to different parts of your job there, was you always came with humility. Is humility easier for 5s? Is it easy for anybody? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I heard someone say once about 5s that they feel like they don't know everything until they do. Then at that point, it feels like anyone else around them who isn't kind of thinking the way they're thinking isn't thinking the right way. You feel like the smartest person in the room at that point. Yeah. So I do think that when we're in the healthy phase, or the phase of like, I'm trying to learn and grow from all of these experiences, that humility comes out. But there's a lot of times where it's false. It's like I'm thinking everyone around me is stupid. And and so I have to like ground myself and understand that there's so much I can learn, even when I feel like I know a lot. Yeah.
Well done externally looking humble then. Because you really nailed it. You really nailed it.
Thank you.
Hannah, what kind of tools do you find yourself needing as a 6 to help you be healthy emotionally and spiritually?
Yeah. I mean, therapy, counseling is definitely a big one for me. checking in with my people and letting them speak into me helps a lot.
Yeah.
My friends and my family are so great at saying the good things that they see in me. And I feel like that helps me a ton to give me confidence, because I think that's one of the things I struggle with the most is just like, how would I handle this situation? Do I have what I need?
Wow.
And then reminding myself of the times where I've been in situations where I didn't feel great or confident, and it worked out and God provided what I needed, and to have those in the back of my mind to remember as I'm facing a hard situation or just moving through life. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And there's been times where I felt like this before, and it's all worked out, and I'm still here, and it's okay. I feel like really great. And then surrounding myself with other sixes, I feel like is really helpful.
Wow. Okay.
My sister-in-law is a six and is so wonderful to empathize with and go back and forth and talk like, are you feeling this? I'm feeling this. Okay, I feel better. And
like when the world goes upside down, you're like, are you worried we're blowing
also?
up? Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
And so having those six friendships, I feel like is really helpful and important as well.
Hannah, I would never think to call other sevens.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Ever. Would you think of that, Ross? Would you think
No
it feel
way.
No.
I don't want to talk to other fives.
No, I don't ever think to talk to other sevens. So that is
like,
really interesting
I
tool.
need all of I want to know that I'm not alone in this. Like, so that's really helpful.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
I have never one time thought, you know what would help me is another seven telling me to run.
That's
yeah, get out of there.
That's funny.
That's right.
The tools I've seen help me so much. Well, counseling. I mean, it's just been between my counselor, my friends that are counselors that have to do counseling for free for me, on site, having kind of resources like that has been counseling podcast. I mean, really has been so helpful for me. And also, I don't know if this is a tool, but I'm going to say it and y'all can speak into it. There is something, a tool that has helped me has been telling myself the truth of like, it is actually okay if you need to turn your phone off and go to the movie theater for 3 hours. And someone know where I am, but escape into a movie or escape into a meal with friends or escape on a vacation or make sure. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons Sabbath matters so much to me is it is a real practice to turn my work brain off.
Yeah.
Because I think other numbers and other triads, when they leave work, they leave work.
Yeah.
And I joke, Ashley and I, my COO, talk about, sometimes I'll say things like, well, from my 9 to 5, but from my 5 to 9, you know? And it's not that I'm working all the time. It's that for the three of us, I mean, our brains are just...
They don't shut off.
They don't stop.
No, we're still going.
And so when the stress is connected to the work, my brain doesn't stop. If the stress is connected to family, I'm thinking about family. If the stress is connected to dating, I'm thinking about dating. And so to me, a tool has been finding small, healthy escapes so that I don't run toward the big, unhealthy escapes that are available in our culture. Is that a bad tool, Ross? Am I allowed to have that tool?
No. Well, it's important to remember that these areas of our lives, they protect us, and they've been protecting us for a long time. They serve as protectors, and sometimes those protectors operate in unhealthy ways, or they don't need to protect us in the same way that they did at the moment of trauma or of pain or whatever it is. But we can't, these things are also gifts about us. So if we demonize the whole thing, then we're also demonizing the gift that it brings us.
Oh,
so, I mean, for sixes, like for you, Hannah, like there's so much beauty in the being prepared for everything and being the person who people can count on and being the person who grounds a situation a lot of times in realism. A lot of people think that sixes are pessimists, but they're more realists than anything. So that is such a gift to the world that sixes are bringing. And so if we only look at worst case scenario thinking as negative and that it's unproductive, then we're also missing the gift that, preparedness can bring. So we have to still, exactly, Annie, I think that's a really insightful thing to say is leveraging these things about us in a way that still protect us, but maybe don't lead to the behaviors that we know can be so destructive in our lives.
Yeah. Yes. The sentence my counselor said to me that I put on Instagram that a lot of people have connected with that I keep saying to myself is, find relief that causes no harm.
Yeah.
And that has been like such a great sentence because a very easy example is Oreos. Like I can find relief, but I will feel terrible.
Yeah.
Right. I can blow through a box of Oreos, but I'll feel terrible. So what is relief that doesn't cause harm? Well, if I make this like frozen banana ice cream, it still like kind of scratches the itch, but it is fruit and peanut butter, right? So it's just not, it's not going to cause harm. Like if and harm to my body and to my mind of like, what have you done? You just vacuumed a box of Oreos. What have you done? You know?
Right.
And so finding relief that causes no harm has really been like an Enneagram 7 mantra that I did not know I needed.
Yeah.
It's really
I think
helpful.
Every number can relate to that.
Find relief that causes no harm. I know. I feel like my therapist should make T-shirts out of that, and we'll all buy them.
Yes.
And now back to finish up our conversation with Ross and Hannah. I want to ask both of you, what did we not say about 6s, Hannah, that you want to make sure people know? Is there anything we didn't say about your type that you want people to make sure they know?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I mean, Ross hit on this earlier just now where I feel like 6s are so categorized into being anxious people. And I'm like, I'm not that. I mean, sure, that is something that comes out sometimes when I'm feeling unhealthy, but I am more just like, I love you so much that I want you to have a great experience. And so how can I help make that happen? And it's very much out of a place of love and wanting to be connected to my people. And so I just... I don't love the rep that 6 gets sometimes.
Good. That's good to say.
So I really appreciate what you said, Ross. That feels
That's
feels
often when one of the things when you get pushback about the Enneagram, one of the things people get pushback about is don't type me. Don't like
don't
say I'm you're a 6. I bet everything's scary. I bet the world is hard. You're a 7. I bet you hate pain. I bet you're running for everything, you know. And so that is one of the big pushbacks Enneagram conversations get is like, don't assume I'm anxious. Don't assume that I'm thinking of the worst thing possible. I'm having a fine day. And I'm not anxious as a person. I'm just thoughtful and you don't think enough. Exactly right. Ross, what do we need to say about 5s that we haven't said yet?
I think that I still want to be connected to people even if I put off that I like being alone. Similar to you, Annie, of kind of the, I don't want to escape right now, even if that's what's coming off. Like I feel that in the sense that I don't want to isolate myself, even if that's my inclination. I want to be connected to people still. And my kind of withdrawing isn't about how I feel about our relationship even.
Wow.
It's more about me protecting myself. And that's not always healthy. So,
because you walked with me through a really painful relationship falling apart with a 5, and his withdrawal always made me feel rejected. When he was just, it was not about me. It was about what was going on with him, but it was awful for me.
For sure. Which, of course, that's how other people feel. And so I'm not expecting you to understand exactly what's going on in my mind all the time. But I think that's what I would want someone to know is that my withdrawal isn't, necessarily how I feel about the relationship.
Wow. That is really helpful. And Ross, you are the most up close 5 in my life. I am very limited on 5 exposure, but I 100% trust you in my whole life forever. I'm trying to think if the thing about Enneagram 7s is anyone listening most likely listens to That Sounds Fun or follow me on Instagram. So they experience a lot of 7. So I'm I don't know if there's anything you don't know about us because you experience us all the time. But I mean, much like y'all, 7s don't want to be put in the box either. We don't want to be assumed that we're not responsible or that we won't finish things. It makes me nuts when people say, 7s never finishing anything they start, that is true at times. But I run 2 companies. Like I finish, like
yes,
I have to. I've written books that have endings. I finish a lot of things that I start, and like I don't think Enneagram 7s also don't love it. I don't love people assuming that I'm running. I don't that I'm running. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, this is really hard, and I'm still right here. Mm-hmm. Like, don't. And so I think overarching what I feel like I've learned from our triad today is like, because we're in our heads all the time, don't assume you know.
Yeah.
Don't assume you know. But we are thinking all the time.
All the time.
All the time. All the time. Okay, the last question we always ask, we'll just go around the horn. Because the show is called That Sounds Fun. Tell me what sounds fun to you. Hannah, what sounds fun to you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, a couple weeks ago, we got to go back to Michigan, back to Grand Rapids, to be with my parents. And my brother lives in California, and he came out to Grand Rapids to meet us there. And I'm obsessed with him and my parents. And so just being in my hometown, in my place with my people is the most fun thing. And it's just like the time where I'm like, I don't even know where my phone is. Like, I am disconnected. I am with my people. We're playing games. I don't have to worry about anything. And so 4th of July, summertime, just being with my people and in my favorite places is the best and sounds really fun.
Ross, one of the best things about Hannah and Craig is Craig has a big family, like I think there's like 76 of them or something. It's wild. It's wild. It's so and they're all together all the time.
They're the best.
And then Hannah has a quiet
it's just me and my brother and my parents, and the 4 of us are so close. They just absolutely love and adore.
So Craig came back from the same trip earlier in the spring and was like, it was great. It was so peaceful.
We love it because we get both ends of the spectrum and like holidays and stuff. And like we get to be with my family, and we're all adults. There's no kids around. And so, I mean, truly whatever we want to do, it's quiet. You can do whatever. And then
dinner at 8 o'clock if you want.
Exactly. Literally whatever. We can watch whatever movie. No one's going to, ask you to do so. And Craig's family is just so fun and like crazy. And there's kids running around, and there's a million different things you could go do if you wanted to.
How many siblings does Craig have? Tell Ross.
He's one of 5.
Yeah, one of 5.
And he's number 4 of 5. And his older siblings are married with kids. So there's 8 nieces and nephews. And it's a blast. It's so fun. I being from a small family, which I love and adore, also really appreciate getting to be in the chaos of that. It's so fun. Beautiful chaos. Yeah.
Y'all are a beautiful pair.
It's so fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah.
All right, great. Mr. Slough, Professor Slough, Pastor Slough, what sounds fun to you?
Man, right now, one thing that I have been just loving so much is my daughter is 8 years old, which is crazy. Annie.
That is crazy. She's that old.
And so she's starting to get into like, we share interests now, which I love.
Oh, wow.
And so one thing that we love to do is like on Friday nights, we just got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas this past Christmas.
Fun.
And we play Zelda together on Friday nights.
That's adorable.
It's so awesome. And she's always like, Dad, can we play Zelda on Friday? I'm like, yes.
Sweet.
So I look forward to Friday nights, us sitting on the couch and playing Zelda together.
That's amazing.
We're going to do it this Friday. So I'm
excited. What a trip, Ross, that y'all are. I mean, is she good?
She likes me to beat the monsters for her because they scare her.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. She's awesome. She's great at it.
What do the other women do while y'all are doing that?
My wife is completely out of it. She's going to do something else, and June will watch with us too.
Yeah.
She likes to sit and
watch. My gosh, you're going to end up with 3 controllers.
I know.
And y'all 3, and great. Michelle just like sewing, painting, creating,
exactly.
making.
That's probably what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Michelle is one of my friends that I'm like, she is an expert at hobbies.
Oh, I love
like, she has really found a way to like, to fill herself up by doing. When I was writing That Sounds Fun, I thought of her all the time and would talk to her about like the hobby section of it, because she really is an expert at like using her time really well, but not exhausting herself. In my observation,
gosh.
So
that's so true. And she's just the person who's good at whatever she does. So if she's going to start something, she's going to be incredible at it. So
even the decoration behind you, for any of our friends watching on YouTube, I'm like, my gosh, of course Michelle would hang a hat and a piece of wood.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Exactly.
Okay, I get to answer. I never get to answer because the show is called That Sounds Fun. Annie, what sounds fun to you? I have been, my birthday, when our friends listen to this, my birthday will have happened the Sunday before. And I have been dreaming of this birthday idea. Y'all are very welcome to be there. I would love for you to come. I want to rent out a movie theater and everyone watch Meg. The Meg about sharks.
Oh my gosh, you don't. Oh, Oh, like
you know
Shark
you
Week?
can,
Megalodon.
Yeah, Megalodon, the Meg. You can rent entire theaters.
Yes.
And then pick which movie. Now, I don't know if the Meg or Meg 2 are going to be on the list. But it is what I think about all the time right now is how do we all get to watch the Meg together in a theater?
There.
Why the Meg?
I think that's one of the finest pieces of contemporary film. I just love it. It is. Have you seen it yet, Ross?
No.
Oh man,
either.
don't watch it with the girls. It's a little scary, but it's just great. Rainn Wilson's in it as like cocky, really rich billionaire who's paying for all this research.
Funny.
It's great. When I'm sorry to spoil this. As you can imagine, most everyone dies. When he gets eaten, It is so good. It is just so good. So I just it's so a great.
Fun.
I mean, honestly, in our conversation, to stick with the triad part, it is one of the movies I found in the last couple of years that I can totally lose myself in. I'm not on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm not doing another thing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh man, like You've Got Mail and the Meg are the ones that are distraction free.
I love that.
I do love that, Annie, that all of these things are ways that we can kind of like get out of our thoughts. Like,
yes.
You know, Hannah, you being with your family and that being a place where you can really
you're right,
like disconnect.
Ross.
Yeah.
And me, you know, like hanging out with my kid and playing Zelda and not thinking about anything else because it's, you know, kind of mindless and not having to be prepared for anything.
Yes.
And you, Annie, like being able to escape in a movie like that.
Man, what a great thing we'll end with that, Ross, because what a gift to say, if you love a 5, 6, or 7, help them do things where they're not thinking.
Not in their mind.
Yeah.
Help them do things where they're not thinking. Like
That's so good.
When people are like, I don't watch TV, I'm like, how do you live? How do you live without television?
Yeah.
It's because that's where I escape. Friends, thanks for doing this today.
Thank
That was
you.
so fun. Y'all are awesome.
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it.
You're the best.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I won't brag too much, but wasn't that a great episode? Mostly the 5s and 6s, but listen, it is such a good episode. I'm so grateful for Ross's wisdom and his thoughts. So, okay, 5s, 6s, and 7s, what would you put on your billboard? I am dying to hear from other 7s if you agree with my billboard or disagree or have more thoughts. I cannot wait to share them all because the world needs to better understand us. Head over to my Instagram, Annie F. Downs, or to That Sounds Fun podcast and grab the billboard graphic. Post what you would want on your billboard and use the hashtag EnneaSummer 2024. Also, remember, we've got that free download for you that goes along with this series. So you don't want to miss that over on AnnieFDowns.com/EnneaSummer. We have a list of other resources there and links to how to find Ross and all our other Enneagram experts. And as we finish the series, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute and rating and reviewing the show, it matters so much when you give this show 5 stars and write a little bit about why it matters to you. So while you're listening right now, as we're finishing up, if you will just, whether you're listening on an app or watching on YouTube, if you will just take a second to rate the show, it would matter a lot to us. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions from this episode, drop them in the Q&A box on your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener, or you can send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast. We'll try to answer them there. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places you may need me. That's how you can find me. I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home. Do something that sounds fun to you, and I will do the same. And today, what sounds fun to me is finishing up my outline to teach at Crosspoint on Sunday. If you are in Nashville, you are welcome to join us in person at church on Sunday, or you can watch online at 9, 11, or 5:30 Central. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday for an incredible conversation that we recorded at the Hepzibah House in New York City with my friend and an incredible pastor, Rich Viotis. We'll see y'all then.
That sounds fun. That sounds fun. Oh, that sounds fun. Check 1, 2 on the microphone. Annie F. Downs in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get you feeling right. Oh man, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. That sounds fun. Oh, that sounds fun.